In this lesson, we're going to update our style guide since we've progressed significantly through our project. So we haven't done much updating to the style guide. As you can see, we only have the type and the icons, and it's not displayed all that well. We've just been collecting things and we haven't been adding too much to it. So we're gonna fix that in this lesson. So first off, I'm just going to go ahead and select our type, and I'm going to add the large title text that we're using in our app screen to that. So that's size 34 medium font. And I'm actually gonna take that up to bold. So this is a nice title, and we're gonna change this to typography. And I'm actually gonna take all these types and we're just gonna throw them over here for now. Same thing with the icons. I'm just gonna get them out of our way. I'm gonna double click on the artboard and we have that 12 column grid still activated on here. So we're gonna make sure that is aligned. I'm gonna hold Alt and move it up 1 pixel. So we're 70 pixels from the top of the artboard. So what we need to do is display the fonts that we're using. In this case, we're using one font. So I'm gonna do that with a common thing you'll see, which is a capital A and a lowercase a. I'm gonna make sure this is in Proxima Nova. I'm going to keep it in bold, and I'm gonna size this all the way up to 200 pixels. And then we'll put that 50 spacing below our typography, just to give it some good spacing. And just below that, let's add the name Proxima Nova. And on this one, we're gonna scale that down to our title button text, which is 17 size font, medium weight. And we'll just touch it to the bottom of our boundary around this type. So it's right there. Now out to the right of this, we're gonna have some other text, and we'll scale this down to the paragraph size, and we're actually gonna leave it at that gray font. And here we'll call this typographic style. So I'm just going to make sure I have a column here for space, and we'll just align this to this 4th column. And I'm gonna drag this up until it touches the top of this large AA text. And below this, we're gonna place in all of our typographic styles. So to keep this nice and consistent, we're gonna start with the title text, and we're gonna put this 20 pixels below typographic. We just wanna clean this up so anyone who looks at it can clearly understand what's happening. So we're gonna call this one heading large. So that is its use, so that's what we'll call it. And then 20 pixels below that, we'll have this one heading normal. And then we'll put the paragraph. And on this one, I'm gonna do a dash, and I'm gonna say body, because it's also called the body. And then below that, we're gonna have our secondary text. So now if anyone looks at this, they know exactly what these sizes are used for in our app. Now below that, I like to have a good representation of the body text in play. So let's go back to one of our app screens. We'll just grab the lorem ipsum we have on this screen, Command C or Control C to make a duplicate. And over here, we will Command V or Control V to paste that in. And then about 50 spacing below the Proxima Nova text, I'm going to place that, and then we'll just delete the button off the end and add a period. So if we zoom out a bit and we turn off the grid, this is what we have now for our typography section for our style guide. And again, the style guide is gonna make sure everything is consistent. If you were to hand this to another designer, or you're gonna work on a team one day, you're gonna wanna make sure that everybody is on the same page. So this document needs to be very clear and organized. So that's what we're doing here, is organizing this, cleaning it up, and making sure everyone knows how the typography is supposed to be used and how it's supposed to look in our app. Next, we'll just copy this typography title. I'm gonna hold Alt and drag down, and I'm gonna put about 100 to 200 spacing below. Let's do 100 first. Let's see how that looks. That looks good enough. So we'll go with 100 spacing below this section, and now we're gonna put in icons. So we'll delete this one, and we'll drag in our icons below it. I'm gonna turn back on my grid, and we'll do 20 spacing below the heading, just like that. And so now our icon section is done. So next up, we're gonna put our colors on here now. So I'm gonna grab the typography text, hold Alt, and just drag over. So right here is the center of our document in between these two columns. So I'm gonna place this typography text right on this next column. So that's giving us again another column of space from this section. So we have that here and we have that here. And this one is going to be called colors. And we'll drag out a square, and we're going to make it one column wide, which is 122 pixels and 140 pixels tall. Remove the border, and we'll just apply the black fill for now. Let's also apply a border radius to this. Since we're using border radius in our design, we might as well keep that consistent as well. And we'll put this 20 pixels below the heading. And I'm going to hold Alt and create a duplicate for each of our color swatches. In this case, we're going to be using 3 because default white we're not going to count. So we're just going to apply black, then our gray color, and then our blue color. So below each one of these, we need the color code. So I'm just going to type out some gibberish text, and we'll apply the style of title and button to that. Make sure it's aligned to the left, and we'll place it on this left-hand column and 13 pixels below the swatch. Now I'm going to copy the color code of each one of these and just paste it in here, and do that for all of them. All right, so now we have our color codes clearly displayed below our colors. And since we're using gradients, a nice way to display our gradients is going to be to drag out one of the swatches. We'll do 50 spacing below these elements. And I'm going to drag this 3 columns wide like that. And we'll apply our first gradient, which is our blue. And in our designs, we often have this going from corner to corner, so we'll make sure we're displaying that. And then here in the top, I'm going to turn off our grid for now. I'm going to create a rectangle that goes all the way to the halfway point of this rectangle, which I believe is right there. And we'll make this 20 pixels high. I'm going to create a duplicate of that holding Alt. Select both and remove the border, and we'll apply the blue color for now. So the first color is going to be this darker color, and the second color is going to be this lighter color, the 2 colors that make up this gradient. So if we select the shape and we go and we select the circle, we can copy that color code and paste it into that first rectangle's fill. And we can do the same over here. We select this circle for the teal color, Command C or Control C to copy it. Select the fill on this rectangle and Control V or Command V to paste that in. Now we'll do the same thing with our text. We'll hold Alt and drag it down. 13 spacing below. I'm going to double click over here in our asset panel to select this. Command C, Control C, or Command V, Control V, and we'll paste that in just like that. So our first color code is 1E, so we need to make sure that one comes first, just because that makes the most sense. So now we have a good representation of how we're making the gradient with these 2 colors, and it looks nice and clean. To finish this up, I'm going to select this rectangle, and we have a border radius in that top right-hand corner. So I'm going to find that value, which is the first one, and put in 5. And then on this one, we'll do the same, except it'll be in this corner. So it will be the second value and 5 pixels. So now we can just select all of that by clicking and dragging, hold Alt, and drag down a duplicate, and we'll put it 50 spacing below that one. And as you can guess, we're going to put our purple gradient next. Make sure that we have that diagonal. And I'm going to select the darkest color that's in this left-hand side, Command C or Control C to copy it, and we'll paste it into the fill. I'm going to go back and grab the lighter color this time, and then paste it into the fill. Double click on the layer and we'll make sure we grab that gradient and paste that in. And I'm also going to double check that 90A1EF is first, which it is. And then lastly, we'll make one more. And this one is going to be for our next and final gradient, which is the pink. And we'll do the same thing. We'll grab the pink color and paste that in. And then we'll grab the orangish color and paste that in. And then lastly, we'll go up here, double click, grab that text and paste it in. And we're going to make sure this darker color is first, F381DA. Nice. One thing I just noticed is this body text has this gap. I didn't even see that until just now. So let's go find that app screen and we'll go ahead and make that adjustment. That must have been a little mistake. All right, so we fixed that. But right here, the last thing we need is our buttons. So I'm gonna hold Alt and create a duplicate. I'm gonna turn on our grid and we'll just align that to that column there. So in this design, we don't have a lot of button variants, but in some you might. So we're just gonna grab what we have. So we have this contact. I'm gonna copy that. We'll paste that in. And since this is an app, we don't have any hover states. But like I said, if you have hover states, if you're designing like a web project, or you have multiple buttons, like you might have an outline button, you'll want to include all of these in the style sheet as well. And since we have kind of a variant here, I'm gonna grab that since we have that icon, so we'll know how to space that out if we have another button like that. And we'll put that 20 below there. The last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this typographic style. I'm going to hold Alt, create a duplicate of that, and we'll put this 50 below this last button. And here I'm just going to put in switch. Since we do have another type of button, it's a toggle switch, so we'll grab that, copy that, and come over here and paste that in. So the first one will be 20 below, and then we'll do 20 to the right for the second variant. So like I said, you want to make this as detailed as you can. If you're gonna work with a team or you're going to collaborate at all on a project like this, you're gonna wanna make sure everyone's on the same page and everything is consistent. And here you can add all of these different styles to your assets panel. That way, when you copy a symbol over to another document you might be working in, and you wanna make a change, you can just do that here and it'll update all of your other documents. So creating a style guide or a more heavy design system is a great thing to do, and I highly recommend everyone do it. So this is just our basic style guide that we're gonna go with here. If you want to add more things, you can, but for now, I think we're gonna call this good. So that's it for this lesson. I hope you enjoyed it. As always, have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one.